Okay, roll call. Borstein,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Here.
Kelly. Director Kelly, you're muted. Verbally noted, Director Kelly is here. Megs.
Present.
Scylla.
Here.
Here.
Thank you, Director Kelly. Everyone's present.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now we will adjourn to closed session with the link that Julia has just forwarded to us. So see you there. We're coming back into open session, and there is no action to report from our closed session. I'd like to ask for approval of the agenda unless anybody has any changes they want to make to the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Michael and Tom. All those in, oh, Julia, roll call.
Thank you, President Scylla. Borstein,
Yes, ma'am.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Kelly, Director Kelly, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I think that was a yes, but I'll come back just in case. Megs
Yes.
and Scylla.
Yes.
Okay. I will call that a 4-0-1 absent vote for Director Kelly. But if he
Kelly
did
did
not,
say, I heard Director Kelly say yes.
I did too.
okay. Okay. Unanimous vote. Thank you.
Agenda item number 7, open time for public to raise items not on the agenda or for future agendas. I don't see any public present. And so we'll move on to agenda item number 8, committees report out. Finance Committee. Tom, do you want to give us a report of our Finance Committee?
Finance Committee met yesterday. Reviewed agenda item 11C, accept the interim financial statements. We noticed that November, as usual, is always our lowest cash position of the year, and we don't receive any revenues until later in December. We also had a question on the pension and OPEB liabilities. They don't seem to be going down, and we're going to get a report on them, our annual report, probably about April. So we would like to take a look at those. We also reviewed the, there's a minor cleanup item on the salary and benefits because of the new employee and new title for that new staff member. And had a good discussion on the sewer service charge assistance program and kind of an innovative program that we can adopt for nonprofit and low-income housing projects. And then a very interesting item on the cost recovery program for interagency work, because our district is getting asked by other districts to help out. And so we, staff has developed a plan to charge for some of these services. We've been doing them for free, and we had a good discussion on that. That's all.
Thank you. Ad hoc Facilities Committee, did that have a meeting?
Did not have a meeting.
Okay. Central Marin Sanitation Agency.
I'll go ahead and start that one. We had our fiscal year 20 audited financial statements, and
is the you?
Oh,
and it was.
we can hear you. Now we can hear.
Anyway, we had our fiscal year 20 audited financial statements, and everything looked good, and there were no surprises there. The next two items, we reported our cogeneration system installation. And the good news there was we had budgeted for 5.7 million, and we had 3 bids that were like 37% less or so, and the low bid was $2 million off that. So it was like $3.7 million instead of $5.7 million. And so that was interesting. And, you know, we had a discussion about why was the engineer's estimate so different than the reality. And I guess it was timing is everything. So it looks like a very, very good bid, and it's people who have done a lot of work for us that have done well in the past, and so that bodes well for everything. And we also had the bid for engineering services during construction with Carollo Engineers, and they've also done very well by us in the past. So we're very excited that we're actually we got the engine sitting there, the Jenbacher engine shipped from Austria, and it's sitting right next to where it's going to go. And this new phase of this project for creating energy via biogas is very exciting for a lot of different reasons. It's a much more efficient engine than we've had in the past, so we'll be able to produce more energy with less input than we've done. And on top of that, we're going to be able to do a thing called islanding, which with the PSPs, PSPS, power safety, basically during the last one last year, even though we had plenty of biogas, we had to flare it because we were not able to run on diesel power and be able to be running biogas at the same time. And with the new setup, with the Jenbacher engine and the modifications to the power switching software that we've got, everything will be able to go at the same time. So if PG&E shuts off the power, the diesel generator will pop on at the same time. But whereas before we would have shut off the cogen engine and not burn the biogas, at this time we'll be able to actually ride straight through it using biogas. And actually, if everything's running well, we can turn off the diesel generator and not make all that exhaust into the environment. So it's actually very exciting and ready to go with that. We're going to be planning for the agency's next 5-year strategic plan, and we're hiring a person to come in and help us with that, and that will start shortly. And that was about it. So
Thank
everything's running smoothly over there.
Great. Do we have a report from the North Bay Watershed Association meeting?
Yes. We had a meeting on November 6th from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. There was a guest presentation, and his name is Jay Jaspers from the San Francisco Bay Area Advanced Quantitative Precipitation Information System, better known as AQPI, and how this benefits to rainfall-based flood warning system in Marin County. The other person that spoke was, Jay is actually a chief engineer from Sonoma Water, and Roger Leventhal, senior engineer from the County of Marin. So Jay did a presentation, talked about understanding they're trying to get weather reports way in advance, which would help not only wastewater agencies, but water agencies, flash flood situations. It would really help for disasters if we know more before a disaster hits. So this kind of system, warning system, will be quite an advanced development, especially for Marin, since we have our watershed area. You know, we have lots of hills. And what I did find out about, so these atmospheric rivers, you know, you hear about these atmospheric rivers every year, and you start to worry that must be pretty bad. Well, generally, they give us a lot of annual rainfall, but the bad news is that there's about 80% of flood damage that occurs in the western US. So hopefully with advanced warning, we can prepare differently and better. And I would think so for the district, because I'm sure it overloads the system. And they talked about getting grant money when they're working on this. And that's sort of it in a nutshell.
Great, thank you, Pam.
Pam, this is Michael. Would it be okay with you if I showed one of the slides that would be very apropos to our agency and shared it with the people?
The flood one?
No,
Yeah.
the radar locations
Yeah, I
and where
have
we are and what we can see.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know how to do a screen share, but yeah, go for it.
Julia, if you can.
Director Borstein, you should now be able to share your screen.
So if you look here, this is the red thing here is what we've got now, which is quite an antiquated old radar. But what it can't do is look out and see that atmospheric river coming in. These green ones in here allow us to have atmospheric rivers. They can see out about 200 miles or so. And you see they have one here in the East Bay, and they have one here down by San Mateo, and they have one here up in Sonoma. And if you look here, where I think Tom was mentioning, we had the highest rainfall of anywhere the other day. We got bupkis, Yiddish word, it means nothing. So they're planning on putting one of those radars out here. I believe it's at Tamales Bay, which will cover us and allow our agency to see the atmospheric rivers coming in also. So that would be that.
Great,
How
thank you.
do I unshare? Julia, can you unshare me?
I'll take care of it, yes.
All right, let's move on to agenda item number 9, verbal report by general manager. Steve?
Thank you, President Silla. I've got a couple of items to give updates. First, I'd like to update the board on the Larkspur Landing property. We're planning a second special board meeting, informational presentation on Thursday, December 3rd at 4 p.m. These informational meetings are designed to gather and present factual information about the property and various requirements so that the board and the public are equipped with the knowledge of the constraints and opportunities associated with the disposition of this property as surplus land. So after these initial informational meetings that are public meetings, we should receive the final sign off from US EPA on the cleanup of this property and then be able to initiate more public engagement. Just to review, the informational workshop, I'm sorry, not workshop, informational presentation that was made on September 30th was about transactional structures such as option to purchase or ground lease and learning about what these terms meaning and the pros and cons. This next informational presentation will be about entitlements and the Larkspur general plan. These aspects have a lot of bearing on what choices the agency has for disposition. And that will be on Thursday, December 3rd at 4 p.m. And subsequent, we envision another informational presentation in January about the Surplus Land Act and how that influences our decision-making and our choices. And that's what we have queued up at this point for public discussion. And then just remind everyone that each of these informational presentations are public meetings, and we invite input and questions and dialogue to help inform the process. And the public engagement process is not yet defined, but should be naturally kicked off after we receive the official EPA approval. Related to that, we are planning to bring to you in December a proposed notice of completion for the Larkspur excavation and remediation project. I will also attach the completion report that Kennedy Jenks is almost completed. We'll be reviewing their draft in the next week or so. But I will attach that to the board item in December so you have a full picture of the process. And that report will be submitted to EPA for their approval. And at that point, they give us written sign off that we've met the conditional approval that they originally issued to us in March of 2019. So that's my update on the Larkspur Landing property. Next, I can update on the 1111 Anderson status. We received an update this week that the letter of intent that we've been working on is going to be signed and transmitted to us in an official capacity from Comcast, the tenant. And we continue to make progress on the construction drawings. We're starting to kick those off based on the conceptual design that we finalized with staff earlier or in October. Also, the lease itself is being drafted by Comcast and should be available for our review shortly. And at that point, we can engage the facilities committee to review that in detail. Third item, the holidays are coming, right? And you may recall that a year ago, we did an outreach campaign using local cable TV and a relationship we established back in late 2018 and did 3-month airings of public service announcements reminding the citizens of Marin County what not to put into toilets or drains, such as fog, wipes, and medications. And we even looked at the lateral grant program as one of our PSAs. You may recall when the coronavirus issue first came along, we were contacted by other GMs of the other agencies about airing our commercials again and participating with us. And so, we did a holiday campaign with 6 agencies last year. We did a coronavirus campaign between March and June with all 9 sanitary districts that have POTWs, plus the JPA agencies here at CMSA. So we said at that time, hey, we'll do another holiday campaign if you're all interested. And they said they were. And so starting on Monday, November 23rd, you'll start seeing our commercials again with all 9 of our sanitary district logos at the end or at the beginning, depending on the commercial. Given it's the holiday season and we want to remind folks about fats, oils, and grease, we're proposing to have half of the commercials be the fog commercial, the ones that are aired at the different channels. And we'll also have our messages about coronavirus and not taking the wipes you're using and putting them in the toilet, and our wipes commercial and our medications commercial with partnership with RX Marin that shows the map on where to use medications for the take back program. So that's going to go on for 3 months. The cost for that is $13,500. If you split that 9 ways, it's $1,500. So, our first campaign cost about $15,000 or something like that. These subsequent campaigns only cost us, this past one was $1,200 and this one will be $1,500.
That's just fantastic.
And yeah, that's a fourth item real quickly. I know that board members have expressed interest in this cutting edge issue an idea of on-site water reuse. You know that I'm an advocate of water reuse, and we've initiated water recycling here with CMSA in the last year. And but in terms of developing new properties, new commercial properties, larger corporations are looking at actually taking kitchen sink water and toilets and treating them and reusing the water for irrigation and toilet flushing. And this is very almost bleeding edge policy and technology that San Francisco pioneered, right? So I actually attended a webinar because I was involved in policy development in this, and it was interesting to see the Facebook campus, actually using black water, and really the first of its kind, in terms of a commercial property. And it made me think, like, is this possible for us to do, with the future development at Larkspur Landing? And we can talk about it in more detail, but what I learned was the state agencies are really looking for that institutional capacity, and there is sort of a threshold that, with commercial use, that makes this feasible. By having this residential use, it introduces a whole nother level of complexity that may be prohibitive, and it would be even more cutting edge than what Facebook did. But I just wanted to let you know, it's San Francisco does require skyscrapers to do this technology, the on-site water reuse. It's really the only place where it's happening. But in preparation for future droughts and water scarcity, it actually has been proven to be feasible in certain settings, like Facebook, like San Francisco. So it was an interesting webinar to get caught up on that. And
My understanding is the Salesforce building in San Francisco has a treatment plant in the basement.
right. Yeah, and the SFPUC headquarters does, and I've toured that. And it's right there. It's incredible. It's right at the corner of Golden Gate and Polk, right a block away from City Hall in San Francisco. And wetlands system that just looks like street side landscaping. And it works perfectly fine.
Don't they do that in Las Vegas too, but maybe not with black water, maybe just with gray water? I think they do.
Right. And remember, gray water is laundry. It doesn't include sinks. Sinks are black water.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for letting me share that. It was interesting because actually Facebook gave me credit for helping make it happen. And I was like, really? I was behind the scenes. It was really Darren, who is the head of Division of Drinking Water. But I was encouraging him to work with Facebook because they were a viable partner, let's just say, back in 2015. If anyone can do it, they could. And I learned yesterday they did, and they're actually expanding it to new campuses that they purchased and are developing.
That's great. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Item number 10, verbal report by board members and requests for future items. Any board members? All right, seeing none. Item number 11, the consent calendar. Does anyone have anything they want to pull from consent?
I would like to pull 11A on the minutes.
Okay. Anything else? All right, Pam, what would you like to tell us?
It's on page 7 of 122. At the very bottom, Director Meggs expressed concern about the lack of cost. I think it was lack of contract from RVSD, because this was Riley Hurd, who was not a lack of cost. He's $650 an hour. So I think that's what I said. I'd have to look at the video. And then it says an estimated hours document. I think I said there was no estimated hours document that we had or he had present.
Okay. Julia, does that make sense to you to make those changes?
I'm happy to review it and make those changes. Thank you, Director Meg.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Then I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
I move the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Julia?
Thank you. Borstein,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meg,
Yes.
Villa,
Yes.
unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 12, consideration of adopting resolution 2015-98, approving expanded eligibility for the sewer service charge assistance program to nonprofit low-income affordable housing developments. Felicia and Steve, or Steve?
Felicia, could you introduce this item, please?
Yes, thank you. I'd be happy to. So this item is a reminder to the board that back in 2016 that there was a pilot program or new program launched by RVSD at that time to provide sewer service charge rate assistance to low-income customers of the district. And the board passed a resolution offering a 25% discount to eligible households. And over the past few years, we've been administering this program, reviewing applications for eligibility. There was a period of time where we actually were issuing rebate checks to eligible households. In the intervening time, we hired NBS Government Financing Group, and they process our teeter rolls, so levying our sewer service charge on the property tax bills for our customers. And they've since taken over administering the program so that the sewer service charge discount gets applied directly to the eligible household property taxes. And this has been a very successful program over the past several years, with an average of about 100 participants each year, costing the district about $25,000 in sewer service charge revenue, although the board has actually budgeted $100,000 a year for this program. So staff has been contacted by a couple of multi-family developments, low-income housing developments, and to ask if they could be eligible for this program. And while it wasn't originally anticipated in the program that was designed in 2016, staff believed that the board might be interested in expanding the program to include these multifamily development projects that are specifically directed to the low-income demographic. So in the process of this, we also thought it would be a good idea just to give the board a summary of how the program has been operating so far. Julia McKenty, our board clerk, worked with Mark Hildebrand, whose name you probably remember, who prepared our rate studies and our fee studies over the past few years. And he prepared a nice report summarizing the program for us, and also giving us some ideas about how we could expand the program to other potentially eligible customers of the district. So it's a little bit tricky because typically property owners are the ones who pay the property taxes, and low-income residents of the district are not necessarily the same as the property owners who pay the property taxes. So for multi-unit developments, it's proposed to the board, in order to expand this program to a wider audience, that nonprofit, specifically nonprofit, low-income affordable housing developments be offered the opportunity to be eligible for a sewer service charge discount. And we think that this could actually expand the program to reach a greater number of eligible households, to the tune of about as much as $50,000 additional a year, but we recognize that since the board has been budgeting about $100,000 for this program, that additional eligibility falls within that budgeted amount. So there's just a couple of other points I'd make. One is that we think that these low-income housing developments don't have 100% low-income units. And so we wanted to propose to the board that the proportionality of their discount be related to the number of low-income units in the development. So for example, if they had 10 units total in the development, 9 of which are low income, and the 10th is market rate, that we would give them a 90% eligibility discount towards their sewer service charge, their 25% sewer service charge reduction. And so that would, the math on that would turn into 22.5% reduction in their rates rather than the full 25%. This is open for discussion. This is not a hard and fast path forward. This is actually a very unique program, I think, in the state of California. And I'm sorry, Mark Hildebrand doesn't appear to be with us this evening. He was invited to attend, but he must have been called away. But I do hope that the board considers this favorably. We know that a lot of people who are in need of rate reduction assistance programs such as this very much appreciate what the district is offering. And I'm sure Julia can attest to the number of thank yous and oh my gosh, how wonderful the program has been, touching so many lives very meaningfully in the district, and we think this is a great opportunity to expand it. So Julia, if you'd like to add anything, or of course Steve, if I missed anything, I'll conclude my portion of the report here. Thank you.
Thanks, Felicia.
Thank you, Felicia. Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, I have been administering the program in its iterations since I inherited it from my predecessor when I started at the district in late 2017. I have sort of been in the transition from it being rebate checks that we mail to the applicants to transferring over to NBS and having it automatically applied to the tax roll. And it has been, significantly streamlined. And I think that because of that, we are ready to expand the program and really set our horizons on something that would actually affect the greater community of Ross Valley Sanitary District. There are fewer, in my brief research, fewer than 15 properties that would meet these eligibility requirements, but that is to say that this proposal would allow them to apply though they are not a single family home, which is great.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, as we talked about in the finance committee, this is not, the goal is to help people who, it's difficult for us to help financially because of the way we collect our, utility funds. So this is not perfect, but it's a good option. It's a creative option, as Mark described it to us. Tom, did you want to say something?
Yeah, the comment that I had was, the 85% or greater. And I think we learned that there's about a list of 10 or so that would qualify for this. And if, I don't know who, if any are going to be excluded, say some low income project has 60%. So our plan would be, at least I envisioned, that we'd start out with this 85 and in the future, try to expand it. I mean, even if it's 2 out of 10, we could give 2, discounts. I think that's that would be the spirit of our plan, is to try and expand the program as we go. It seems to me it's pretty innovative. We learned that there are not too many agencies that do this.
Steve, I realized you unmuted at one point. Did you want to say something also?
I think you've covered it. I wanted to acknowledge that, that within Mark Hildebrand's memo, there's an interesting map. I could put it on the screen, but you've got your packet that shows the existing beneficiaries of this policy, and it's not concentrated in one neighborhood. It's actually spread throughout the district. And so that was pretty illuminating, in terms of how wide a net this program has cast around our district. So that was good information in his memo. And then also that really the agencies that are pioneering this tend to be water agencies. In Mark's research, he didn't uncover any sanitary districts that do this. So that's of note that you're innovating in terms of, and then to stretch even beyond the single family benefits and go into multifamily, and to grapple with that challenge, because there's a disconnect between the owner and the low income resident. And there would be assumptions about translating, how a landlord charges a tenant for the sewer portion of what the landlord pays. That's almost impossible to track. So that's why we weren't able to really extend to the broader group of multifamily residents in our district. But Mark did, and through working with Julia and Felicia, did identify there is this group of land uses, the low income affordable housing, where we could do something creative. So it's very novel, and it seems feasible, and it seems like we're meeting a need with the existing program.
I was interested to note on page 4 of 9 that in Marin County, household size of 1, low income threshold is $97,600, which I thought that was a little bit surprising, but welcome to Marin County, I guess. And this is a fabulous thing. All the people who worked on this and came up with the idea, and I'm, anytime we can do anything positive like this, and I like the idea of groundbreaking.
And to get back to what Felicia pointed out, is this doesn't make a huge impact on our revenue. We've already budgeted the 100,000. We don't approach it. So we have pushed in there to absorb this additional cost, and it's a small percentage, very small percentage of the revenue, almost negligible.
Great. Any other comments or questions from board members?
I just think it's a great program, so I'm in favor of it.
Okay, then would you like to make a motion?
I would. Hang on, let me get to the beginning of that again. So I'd move to approve resolution number 20-1598, approving expanded eligibility for the sewer service charge assistance program to nonprofit low-income affordable housing developments.
Proud to second that one.
Thank you. Julia, roll call, please.
Yes, thank you. Borstein,
Absolutely.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meigs,
Yes.
Hilla,
Yes.
unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 13, discussion and approval of board policy on board member compensation. Steve.
Yes, this is a continuation of the discussion that the board has been having about being more specific about what activities are compensated according to ordinance number 80. And so this is, I believe, the third meeting we're discussing this policy to be included in the board policies. And the policy was redrafted based on input from last month's meeting. And staff took that direction and drafted the policy for your consideration for adoption.
Thank you. Board members, any comments or questions? It looks like we mostly are leaving it up to our individual determination, besides for regular and special board meetings. That I would say will continue in the tradition of paying for a representative on the North Bay Watershed Association and ad hoc committee meetings, but we'll consider it on a case-by-case basis. At least that's my reading of it. Any other comments?
No, I think this is pretty much what we're doing now. I don't think we've really changed anything here. And so I support this.
Tom, you're unmuted. Does that mean you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to, I think that it's kind of what we've been trying to say, and yes, it's pretty much exactly what we do anyway, because we always, for example, approve like CASA or, attendance CASA or the Special Districts Association. And we also were going to incorporate the location of conferences that we attend, I guess, on that other attachment A or whatever it was, that compensation.
Oh, right.
That was Dr. Lee's idea.
Okay. I had one edit because the bullet under what board members are not compensated for, it says board members are not compensated for service on the CMSA board, and they are by CMSA, right? So I wondered if it made sense to clarify.
I think that's a good point, Mary. Yeah, I think that's a good
I
point.
just wouldn't want somebody to come and say, wait a minute, you say, you're not compensating when in fact CMSA is.
Okay.
So they're not compensated by the district for service on the CMSA board. Would that work?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think she's right. I think Mary's right. I think it should say because they're compensated by CMSA.
Or, yeah, I mean, I don't know that you have to explain why. My thought was to say
RVSD.
board members are not, even before we get to the bullets, board members are not compensated or reimbursed by RVSD for the following activities. But anyway, it's getting a little nitpicky.
Yeah, just a little note that in the past, that CMSA did compensate their board members, and the difference between what CMSA was paying and what RVSD did for their meetings, that difference was paid by RVSD. So
Right.
there it would really make a difference.
Right. I just wanted to be clear that we're talking about what RVSD compensates, because there is a compensation.
I'd like to modify that bullet just to say the first bullet down at the bottom, board members are not compensated by RVSD for service on CMSA.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll talk about what CMSA is doing.
That works.
Okay, so are we able to pass the policy with those amendments? Yes, I'm seeing a nod from Andrea. Okay, great. Then if there's.
Just make it part of the motion.
Okay.
I move that we approve the approval of board policy on board member compensation with the previously noted modifications.
I'll second.
Roll call, Julia?
Yes, sorry, I was just making notes. Borstein,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meg,
Yes.
Zilla,
Yes.
unanimous vote, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 14, discussion of a cost recovery program for interagency work assistance in consideration of authorizing the general manager to enter into agreements with agencies in Marin County for interagency work assistance. Steve.
Yes, I will have Steve Mixis provide some insight into this, since he's the one who's been getting calls about getting work done. Let me introduce this item by tying this back to a discussion at the business plan level. We did identify this as a potential project in this year's business plan. that came from inquiries we've been receiving from neighboring agencies to perform specific tasks and offers of compensation. And then we reviewed, the files here and saw, oh, we don't have a cost recovery program established here where we recover costs of our workers and equipment being loaned out to neighboring agencies. This type of work is conducted within the framework of the mutual aid program that we participate in with the other sanitary districts and cities that operate sewers, collection systems, and as well as treatment plants. And CMSA contacts all the agencies annually and gets an updated list of equipment. And that's a resource that any of us can use to contact other agencies to borrow equipment, if ours is down or we're in some kind of emergency situation. And you might recall about a year ago, we assisted SD2 Corte Madera with some force main shutdown work overnight because their system's interconnected with ours, and they needed a lot of people and equipment to be able to respond to emergencies had they occurred. And we were also helping shuttle some wastewater into pump stations and that sort of thing. We didn't charge them for that. Maybe we could have, and I think we talked about it informally, but there's a sort of what comes around goes around approach to mutual aid in the county. Now, what we were approached about was actually conducting smoke testing. There's some regulatory expectations for some of our neighboring agencies to do this type of work, and there's concern about the cost and maybe, is there a possibility for the agencies to develop some internal capacity to do this work? And, could we train them? And so these questions come up, and so it triggered us to pull together a package of what would we charge, how would we charge, what would our invoices look like, what services could we offer, and then have a standard agreement that indemnified us and them, in case we made mistakes, and set up, that contractual relationship with the other agencies for interagency work assistance. So I want to acknowledge that Steve Mixis helped me pull together some example invoices and daily work reports. Felicia helped review the program description, and Andrea helped with the reviewing the agreement, which I used a modified CMSA agreement that they have with SD2 to operate their pump stations. So that's how I drafted the agreement, and Andrea provided some great input on that. So that's where we got to this point, and we discussed this internally and thought it made sense if we're going to do these agreements, which may come up in the next few months. There's nothing imminent, but we thought it was a good idea to share this with the board and get your approval to authorize me to enter into these type of agreements with other agencies, and to get your input on how the package looks and any modifications you'd recommend. So that's where we're at. We think there's benefits I indicated in the staff report, that are related to on that third paragraph of the second page. This contributes to standardization of procedures and information management within the local industry profession. It contributes to cultivation of expertise and workforce resiliency throughout the county. Some camaraderie among the broader number of wastewater operations and maintenance workers, and consistency of programs for Marin County residents and businesses. All of these contribute to more standardization and consistency that results in what I would call a functional consolidation of collection systems throughout the county. If you do these type of relationships where we go out, assist other agencies, train their staff while we're doing it, because they're not getting training from when they contract these operations out. When they contract with local companies to clean their lines or do the camera work. They're not getting trained on how to do the coding, the PHCP, MACP assessments of the infrastructure that we can do. So I think our neighboring agencies understand that, and we used to do this for SD2 back in the 2000s, and this is something that we could restart with them. So that's my introduction. I went on and on, but it's another one of these novel programs. There's not an easy template to work with, but there's some common principles that we can apply that are done in the private sector that we can approach in the public sector, but not have profit markup. This is really just intended to recover our costs and these other benefits that come with it. So with that, Stephen, do you have anything you'd like to add as far as how would this fit in to our existing workload? It's not like we're not busy already, right?
So one of the goals of this approach is to start out small and go slowly, see how it works out, and take a methodical approach. What we do have the capacity for is our own CMMS program. And when we go out and potentially do work for outside agencies, we are highly trained in the data that we take in from the field. And that's something that a lot of contractors do not have. So by going out and smoke testing and doing condition assessment, like the general manager said, you're going to get a lot better data to, in turn, for data-driven decisions. So that third paragraph definitely showed a lot of the potential in our area. Even today, I got called by a local agency and I need help. I don't know what to do. And I was like, well, we do know what to do, but we need to do our own day jobs and focus on what our needs are. But at the same time, and with the good faith collaboration with other agencies, there should be a capacity, after in the springtime or whatnot. But we're heavily involved in bay work, CASA, CASI. I know a lot of operation managers throughout California and now through other states that are very interested, and I'm proud to say that they're interested in what Ross Valley's doing. And I look forward. I think this is an incredible program, but again, slow and steady. And I'm looking forward to implementing.
Yeah, we could look at, we have a work order system. So looking ahead, if I mentioned Tamalpais Community Services District, I think they may be one of the first we work with. And they said, well, how about we do the smoke testing in March, right? And so we'd look at our work, our work plan and say, well, can we spare a couple guys, and for 2 or 3 days that month, right? And so we work that in to what we're already doing and schedule it in, and then we'll track it. We'll look at this aspect of our output separately within metrics reporting.
Correct, and I'm very heavily interested in. There's a lot of interest in our internal training program, cost-based training. I know we made a large investment in it, and that was another phone call today, and I provided CTS's information. So, but we are stronger together. We're all local. There's not a lot of drive time in between, and we can provide the same level of service that we provide to our ratepayers to other ratepayers, and that opens the door for other general managers and local agencies to say, hey, maybe we could do this internally. So there's a lot of wins to a program as long as it's structured and implemented slowly and steadily, and we constantly review lessons learned and report back to the board.
Yeah, we can use those standard operating procedures to the extent that they're not too specific to specific equipment. We can share all of that work with our fellow agencies and say, here's what the SOP we developed for this. And through interagency work assistance, it's kind of a conduit for sharing that.
And again, we're highly specialized in what we've implemented. There's a lot of local contractors that do not do what we do internally. And we're very proud of implementing this over the last 10 years I've been here. And that's why there's a lot of interest, because we can do it cheaper and more effective and methodical, and provide the data that other agencies need, or follow up. So
yeah, we'll curate the data.
Yep.
You're not going to get that from the contractors. They're going to get paid and they're going to move on. But we're interested in seeing our fellow agencies be successful.
Absolutely.
Tom?
Well, I think, to me, one of the most important points about this plan is that other agencies are now have recognized that we've advanced completely beyond where we were not that many years ago, and that they're looking to cooperate, and seek our assistance. So it's really a sign of how improved we are with our operations. We did at Finance Committee, and I think it was Mary's idea, we definitely want to make sure that overhead costs are included in our rates. We don't want our ratepayers subsidizing. And there's not a huge problem with having a nominal profit, a small amount, because I look at our metrics report, and we're doing those local liners, and I'd hate to lose, do not do our local liners because we're helping somebody, for example. But if we're discharging with our very local, all in the same place, and the plan is to clean up the wastewater and have a better environment. That's our mission. So I think it's really pretty neat. And I like the idea of proceeding slowly and make sure all of our costs are recovered, and spread the knowledge.
I mean, you could actually compare what we would charge to what Roy's would charge for something, and just make sure it's somewhere below that. I can imagine. And one benefit that Stephen mentioned on the finance call that he didn't mention tonight was just, sort of getting to know who the other staff are at other wastewater agencies and what their skills are, as maybe a way of recruiting or cultivating staff to fill positions that we may have open. So I think it's really wonderful. Anybody else have any glowing comments for this program?
One other dimension I did, but it's in the list, is we put stormwater pipe along the sewer pipe. And especially within our district, we have an interest in making sure that the storm drain system is not defective in a way that pours a bunch of stormwater into the sewer system, right? So we have an interest in a properly functioning storm drain system, and you all probably know that they struggle with, as an enterprise, having adequate funding to do capital upgrades. It happens because we coordinate with those projects here and there, but they're not as common as sewer projects. So, and then certainly lining storm drains, not happening much, right? But we do these 4-foot liners every day. And that's an example that as this program evolves, there might be opportunity for us to work with the towns, helping out with repairs, right, Stephen?
Absolutely. And just let the board know, most of my experience is with storm drains. It was, 25% sewer when I worked for a contractor and 75% storm water. So I do bring a lot to the table on rehabilitation, and that. And there's a lot of interest from Larkspur, San Anselmo, and Mill Valley, all over the place. Marin County now is very interested in what we're doing. So again, trend centers.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I saw Roy's pumping out, remember that, along the bike path in between Kentfield and Ross. And Michael was the president at the time. I took a picture and email. I'm like, what is Roy's doing down in the canal? and it was storm drain. So it's right here in our district. I guess that was the county doing that work.
Yes.
So if it's right here in our district anyway, then we should be helping with those storm drains and getting paid for it.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, because we have to get our work done too. Like Director Gaffney said, you know, we don't want to see our metrics suffer because of going elsewhere. But I mentioned in the staff report, I believe there's a bit of capacity we have because the cease and desist order, you know, expectations are sunsetting, you know, and there was a lot of work on camera and repair, you know, that's starting, you know, there's only so many repairs that we had to make, and we're getting to the end of the tunnel on that. And so there's incremental capacity that will be available.
Correct. And Steve did hit on the training aspect. A lot of these agencies actually have some of the equipment we do. They just don't use them the way we use them, or they have trouble with their CMMS, taking the PACP data, putting it in the CMMS, and then being able to make data-driven decisions off of it. That's where we can come in and show this is how you use the software via or the equipment via our SOPs, and what does good look like, and train to the Delta other agencies. So there's a lot of interest in that.
Go ahead, Tom.
Mary, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to recommend that we authorize the general manager to enter into agreements with agencies in Marin County for work assistance to recover cost of service provided. And I'd like to keep attachment A flexible, you know, make sure the numbers are right in there. But we're approving an amendment. I think, as you know, it'd be in accordance with subject A as maybe amended from time to time. Right.
Absolutely second.
All right, Julia, roll call, please.
Yes, thank you. Borstein,
Yes.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes.
Scylla,
Yes,
unanimous vote. Thank you.
thank you. Item number 15,
Thank you.
consideration of accepting the year-end capital report for fiscal year 1920.
Yeah, thank you, President Scylla. This is the third annual report put together. We're using a template that was developed a couple of years ago to track the capital program due to its extraordinary output, and that was fueled by bond funding to meet ambitious targets imposed by the cease and desist order from the regional water board. And so we use the same template to report out on this year's projects. And we had a lot of completions. You might remember if you look, but I'll remind you that we're talking about fiscal year 1920. So these are numbers as of June 30th. So there's been more productivity since then, you know, given the construction season of this year. But this is a snapshot at that point, and it's almost the 6.5 year, almost 7th year of the IAMP, which was a 7-year IAMP, which is the Infrastructure Asset Management Plan. So in some ways, this is a final report, and yet, as I've noted in the staff report, there's still this tail of the work that's wrapping up now with the Laurel Grove project. We still have another pump station project that we're going to go out to bid with for pump station 14 in Larkspur. So there's a few last things that we're working on, but this really is almost final report, you know, on the 2013 IAMP. And Julia, I was wondering if you might allow me to share my screen, because I just wanted to point out the graphic from the report.
You should be able to do so now, GMOR.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to pull it up so that you're looking at it. Get the graph. Let's see. For forgive me here. I have it up, but I just I don't have the graph queued. Okay. And so the first graph I'm going to show you was the IAMP plan. Can you see my screen? Bring that over. So this graph shows on the x-axis going back to year 2013 when the IAMP was adopted along with the cease and desist order, and then it goes to the right all the way to this last fiscal year of 1920. And in this plan on the green, you see the number of miles of sewer to be replaced. It doesn't include the pump stations, but it's just the gravity, and I don't think there were any force mains, but it was small and large gravity. And there's supposed to be 32.3 miles by this time. And that the budget that was estimated was fairly linear assumption here. And it went from started at 10 million for the first year and out to 95.7 million. So this is what the board, by adopting the IAMP, obligated and committed itself to, and that was why we had to issue so many bonds. And I'm scrolling down, and this is the actual. So what the pattern was over these years, again, looking at the going from 2013 out to this last fiscal year, 1920. On the bottom, you see the green line, and it was, we got started with $3 million of capital, but then the next couple of years, only about $1 million out the door. There were some challenges with getting bids and right sizing projects. They were too big and we got too expensive of bids. You might recall that, you were here. And then there was a bump in 16-17 where some work got done, another delay into 17-18. And then the last 2 fiscal years, we finally got traction with right sizing projects that went out to bid and got competitive bids and started to catch up. So we're at 28.82 as of June 30th, as opposed to 32.3, which is really kind of toward the end of this calendar year. So we're a little bit short in mileage, but we did manage to catch up the last couple of years, which is good news. Now, in terms of the money, we again had not a straight line curve, but it started to pick up in its steepness the last couple of years. And last 2 years were 21 million and 24 million in capital. And so 24 million the previous year, 21 million this year. And you see that we've exceeded the 95.7 amount. Well, part of that is that this number includes 5 million in the Larkspur Landing cleanup. And the previous year was only a couple 100,000 because it was just getting started. So this captures up to June 30th. Now, you might recall, we didn't really get the second wave of this project, the cleanup project for PCBs until July, right? So you're going to see more costs. But that overall project, when I bring you the notice of completion next month, you'll see it came in around 8.2 million, which is good news because we bid it with contingencies at 8.8 million. So I have good news for the board that, where we didn't get the base bid at 8.039, we still came in quite a bit below what the contract amount was. So I'm giving you a little preview of that good news. Nevertheless, if you bring that expense in, we do go above the 95 million. And that's the reason, part of the reason. Another reason why we're getting less miles for more money is we did a condition assessment study in 2015 on large diameter sewers. There's a concern that these larger trunk lines might have structural issues. And living on borrowed time with the big trunk sewers, that was it was a very well thought out process. I want to, give Catherine Hayden credit for steering the capital program toward these large diameter sewers. Well, guess what? They're more expensive. because they're very difficult to work in, downtown Ross and Butterfield Road, right? All these in downtown San Anselmo, and bigger pipe, bigger trenches, tough work, more expensive, less pipe, right? But the bigger diameter pipe and definitely the better risk assessment decision. And so that's why we have less part of the reason why we explain we have less miles than the IMP showed is because we actually deleted projects that would have given us more miles. And it's on this list here, like the Manor easement in Kentfield, partially completed. Spruce Park, Merwin, Broadway, and Fairfax, postponed because we didn't see capacity impacts that were predicted there. Butterfield, postponed, right? So there was a lot of miles that were tied up with these smaller diameter projects, but they weren't really going to solve potential problems like the models from the 2000s predicted. So, I want to then also say, the next wave of IAMP, we're really going to have more risk-based and less prediction-based capital work, So anyway, I wanted to at least give you some insight into why the numbers didn't quite add up. But also, here we are getting to the end of the road on this IAMP, and then we provide a lot of detail in terms of to answer questions about level of expense for the different projects on a line-by-line basis, and then what were the professional services costs for each of these projects to different consultants, just to give you an idea of what the level of costs were. That is my overview. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Board members, any questions? Crystal clear. Great.
I think the amount that we've accomplished in the past 6 years since I've been on the board is truly amazing. So bravo to the district.
All right.
Yeah, I think getting that many miles done is outstanding. I'd move to accept the year-end capital report for fiscal year 1920.
I would move to accept that. Second, whatever.
Julia, roll call, please.
Absolutely, thank you. Borstein,
Yes, ma'am.
Gaffney,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes.
Phila,
Yes.
unanimous vote, thank you.
Thank you. And item number 16, informational items. Metrics. Ed?
How about those metrics? Any highlights or mixes? Steven, what do you, any highlights for the board?
Yeah, we're about to wrap up the CTS assessments for the crews for the on-call modules. So I had a great meeting with CTS this morning, so I can show General Manager Moore and Felicia the deliverables on what individualized training programs are going to become look like. We did start on our high frequency cleaning lines and should wrap that up. We had to modify a couple crews and should be done in about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. I will say, and I know this has been mentioned, and I think it's a wonderful idea. We've been using the new IBOC manhole scanner, and maybe the plan is I do a technology corner for the board meetings, but what we're getting, the data we're getting out of the new IBOC truck, that's that very expensive condition assessment vehicle, is phenomenal. So I'm more than happy to show the board, and I'll discuss that with Steve later. And the pump station operations supervisor is very happy with all the wet wells that were spin coated and epoxy coated. They look phenomenal. I do appreciate what Newt Engineering is doing by doing all the structural inspections with the confined space. So we've been very busy lately, and lots of pluses.
Steve, I came upon that truck doing some work in San Anselmo. I think Jason was
Yep, Jason.
one of the, yep. They're really, really nice. It was great work. I would like to see that truck wrapped. I thought we were going to get that truck wrapped.
Yes, that was in the plan. We'll be looking into that, and I'll definitely talk with General Manager Moore. We actually have several designs, and we'll definitely look into that.
What do you
Great,
mean?
thanks. Good work. The design of the truck has water and Ross Valley Sanitary District logo, and just looks really. So I saw a couple of designs. They looked really cool.
Flames down the side.
No.
But I would just like to point out this morning, I right near my driveway on Laurel Grove Avenue and Man Drive, the truckster was there with two of our guys lowering down the crawler, I think it's called, Stephen.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, this crawler, which is
State of the art.
very heavy. It requires a crane to drop it down, but they're getting all sorts of amazing information from that, where this thing can do a 3D picture of as the device is crawling down the pipes, and it reports back to us not only the condition of the pipes, but sometimes where we think the pipes are not where the pipes are, and this thing tells us using, I believe, GPS technology, exactly like to the inches, where exactly these pipes are, so that, when we dig or somebody else digs and they're looking at our drawings are more precise than they've ever been. And it's very exciting to see us using this technology. And I'm all in favor of Stephen's technology corner. Maybe we even make a podcast out of it. You become famous.
Mary?
Yeah, we were talking about information item, this information item's part of the agenda. We could have a technology update.
Yeah.
And have Mixa share a screen, and you can see what a full high definition rendering of a manhole looks like.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was wondering about the status of the project that we approved at the special board meeting about 2 weeks ago. How's that coming along? Because we had the rain.
Sure.
Today.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you asking the question, and we're very appreciated the approval. We were able to mobilize and complete the entirety of the work in 5 days. In terms of just the main and connections. There is a little bit of cleanup work. We need to video it and make sure it's all meets specifications, but we've already tied in all the laterals. We actually identified a non-compliant lateral because this is such a remote area and large 400-foot laterals that there was a disconnected lateral above ground that was just spilling out onto the ground, and it was so far from the house that they had no idea what was going on. So sometimes when we do this type of work, we uncover things and solve problems, and protect the environment. So there's a lot of win-win on this. So yeah, it's in. The connections are done, and we're going to complete the testing here in the next couple of work days. And we did
so
get it.
Just beat the rain.
Yeah, we got it all done before the rain.
Good.
Michael's comment about the big truck made me think, if we go out and help other districts and use our big equipment, the fee should include sort of a capacity charge, right? Like, if we're using our big, beautiful equipment that we own, that should be incorporated into the fee. I see Felicia smiling, so.
Yes,
I've been a nonprofit grant writer for too long. I look for money wherever it can be found.
That's very true. Great point. And we do have that in that daily work report, because we modeled that on a contractor's daily work report, and they have a section there on equipment.
Okay.
And we can ascribe a cost to hours of equipment use.
Yeah, great. Any other comments on the informational items?
I'd like to know about the small SSO.
So that was one Ellswood. That was actually self-induced with our cleaning crew. We were on site, and basically it was an extremely steep run. The main line goes underneath the house, and at one of the bends there was a structural defect. It also had roots, and this has all been reported. However, due to having the trenchless crew, without taking out the side of the house, we were able to go put in a cured in place point repair and then use a reinstatement cutter called the Decote and reinstate the lateral. And the homeowner was just so happy. We did clean everything up for her, but we do not have to worry about that segment of pipe. The rest of the pipe is in good condition. Basically what the operator had to do was reverse clean, and it built up, and we came out of their clean out. So failure analysis, we came in there, we remedied the situation, and it's all repaired. So
That's outstanding. So something bad, but the result is something great.
Correct. Trust me, I would have loved 3 months in a row of no spill reports, but one day it will happen.
All right, anything else? Just to clarify, so we are planning a special meeting on December 3rd at 4 p.m., correct? Okay.
That's correct.
And that's a notice meeting we're all going to attend.
Yes.
All right, great. And then we'll have a regular meeting on the 16th, later on in the month.
Yeah, and I'll announce it in the GM bulletin.
Great.
That the public workshop is, or not workshop, it's a informational meeting is happening.
Is it possible to get that out on Nextdoor and that sort of thing as well?
Yes, we do the GM bulletin with, it's connected to Nextdoor, but I'll emphasize that with Lawrence, or the next door meeting, Nextdoor message that we send out.
Great. Yeah, I want to have a lot of public input. All right, if there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Board.
Thank you.
Good night.